Hello and welcome back to Rebel Reviews, where today I'm going to give you my review on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And a little bonus at the end, I'm also going to do a little toy review as we have just gotten the entire set from the new movie for my son. So stay tuned for that at the end. But first, before we get started with the review, make sure you press that like button, hit subscribe, and make sure your notifications are on so you don't miss any and all new content. And this is your TMNT Mutant Mayhem spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the movie yet, please go check it out at your local theater before you check out my review. But if you don't care and you want to see what I got to say anyways, go ahead and stay here. But again, I will not be responsible for any spoilers. Alright, so let's get started with my general reaction first, and then we'll go into the 5 things that I love about the film. We just saw the movie yesterday as a family, my wife and my 3-year-old son, and we definitely enjoyed our experience at the movie theater watching this. The movie is only about an hour and a half, so it's a perfect runtime for a child, and then for ourselves if we don't want to stay for long movies. But we left very surprised and into the movie. It was very good to see this new iteration of the Ninja Turtles. We love the style of it, which would be one of the 5 things that I talk about. It was just a very fun film. It was funny. You can obviously tell that this is a Seth Rogen film and his crew with Evan Goldberg and others. They did a really good job of making it fun throughout. The sequences were really great, and it's just fun with turtles, so how could you complain about anything with that? It's definitely a refreshing experience compared to some of the newest turtle stuff that we've received, especially going back to that Michael Bay series. But I'm very excited to see what's to come in the future for this series, and we loved it. So highly recommend, again, if you haven't seen it, spoiler warning again, to go check it out because we definitely enjoyed our experience with it. Alright, so number 1 of the 5, the one thing that I loved the most about the film was the artistic style of it. A lot of people are comparing it to Across or Into the Spider-Verse. It's not quite on that level, it's very different, but definitely the care that goes into it, you can tell, is on that level. It's more of a drawn look, it's like right out of the comic book, but even as it is drawn with looking like markers and pens and stuff like that, at times it almost looks like it's actual claymation. They do a really good job of making it look real, like it's almost popping out of the screen, and we didn't see this in 3D for any reason. I don't even think it's in 3D, but it looked that real to us, like it was drawn to come out of the screen. So the style is really good on how they did it. Also, it just fits. It's almost like I said, out of the comic book, it's very dark and gritty, and this is in New York City. It makes the landscape look really cool, the dark areas of the film, but at the same time, it's also readable. I know there's a lot of movies, I'm trying to think, like, one that pops in my head is Venom towards the end of the movie with the big fight scene. You kind of get lost, and a couple of Transformers are like that, where you can't see, you see stuff on the screen, but it's hard to make it out. Like, even the way this style is throughout the film, the sequences and how it moves, the fight scenes are very readable. You can see what's going on, catch every little detail. So they did a fantastic job of making this animation come to life. I'm excited to see more of it. And it just goes to show you that animation can make a real movie. Like, Spider-Verse isn't the only thing that can be done this way. There's many different ways with that care and that time that you can make something just seem real, even though it's not actually live action. So the style is fantastic. I think it's the number 1 thing of the film. You kind of get lost in it, seeing it, and again, just it's almost like you can touch the characters at times. I think they did a really good job, as well with the character builds. Somewhat a little short and stocky. That kind of seems like the style for most of them, but I like how the turtles are differentiated. They all have their different thing. One is slimmer than the other, some is taller. Like Ralph is a little more hefty and bigger. So all the characters have their own different style. Splinter is a little different in this one. We're used to him being like the little ninja, but he's a little like an old man, a little more chubbier in this film. So overall, I love the style. I love how they differentiated all the characters. Sorry with that one. And just did a really good job of making everyone seem unique in their own way. So that was number 1, the style. Number 2, the actual story. So I think they did a good job or made a good choice of keeping the turtles young. So this story, if you watch it again, it happens mostly 15 years after how the turtles are created. So the start of the movie, it starts off with Dr. Stockman is creating his mutants. The Fly is like his main like baby, and he's trying to build a family with these mutants, and then this agency comes in and changes everything, wrecks it all up, takes Stockman out, and then they lose a lot of his research, but the ooze, that they like to call it, falls into the sewer, and then of course makes our turtles. So it's pretty much the same origin story. I think they changed up Splinters a little bit. He just happened to be a rat in New York City, and he gets a hold of the ooze by coming in contact with the turtles, and kind of the same thing as Stockman was doing. He kind of builds his own family with these turtles who are now changing because of the ooze. And I think, like I said, the clever thing is they keep the turtles young. One of my biggest gripes are when it comes to like a lot of superhero stuff is, especially like Spider-Man, they make the characters grow up too fast. Like, and I like to explore more of the high school era as possible, and I think they did a better job of that this time around with the newest Spider-Man with Tom Holland. But like in this, they keep the turtles young. It's not about them actually being ninjas. We find out that they were trained and learned how to do some ninja stuff, but they've never even used it before until this film. They finally put those skills to test. And so I just like that they kept them young. We get to see what they desire in life. I think we're used to seeing the turtles as just happily living in the sewer. And it changes it up a little bit. These are turtles who want to be a part of the real world. The sequence in the movie at the start where they crash like a outdoor viewing of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which I think is also just funny. But as they're watching it, they're imagining what it'd be like in high school. And I think it's just funny that it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off because he's actually trying to be out of high school that day, and then here they are trying to be in high school. But it's kind of the same thing. They're trying to escape their normal routine of the world, just like Ferris Bueller was doing in the film as well. He's trying to get at his normal routine of going to school. And you see that they desire, like Leo wants to, have a girlfriend or a relationship, and then the other guy just want to experience something different and do different things. And then they're tied to pop culture, like they mentioned Beyonce and a couple other things. So like they're like kids in this actual world, but they can't experience it because they're these mutant turtles living in the sewer. So I think that's a great dynamic, something different than we haven't seen before. And then to add an extra layer to that, they meet April O'Neil, who was played. Well, I'll get to that in the voice actor part later. But it's a very good dynamic because she's also an actual high schooler, but she's been made infamous due to puking on one of her reports at school. So she's someone who is trying to get back into the high school good graces, I guess, because she's been called April O'Puke at this point. And so, like, the whole thing is about the turtles trying to find a way to be accepted. That word's been thrown out a lot. And what they can do to be accepted so that they can go to school. And the same thing for April. So the story is overall great. There's growth throughout it. That's always my biggest thing. Even for, like, a movie like this, I guess it's made for kids. There's actual growth. It's not just some A to B film. All the characters grow. We have the turtles who realize that they want to be accepted, but they're trying to be heroes for the wrong reason to be accepted, whereas they finally, by the end of the film, learn that it's better to do the right thing versus rather than do it for something in return. I think it's an important lesson. Then April obviously gets her moment at the end where she gets to be the protector of the turtles, gets to explain that they're the saviors in this whole story, and that she still ends up puking at the end, so it's almost like she's more confident in herself. Even though she puked the first time, she even puked again, but this time around it's still different for her. Even though she did the same exact thing, she just keeps going. And then a big part of the movie, the reason why the turtles aren't exposed to the real world is Splinter has, told the turtles like humans hate you and all that type of stuff. And by the end of the film, you see that he's even learned that that's not the case for all turtles, and that he jumps in to help save the world. Which is the biggest part of the story is like they get to stay kids and we get to spend time with them. It's not really about saving the world from the jump. But when it does come to that, we find out that Superfly is, like I said, he was the son of Stockman, or the mutant creation, and he wants to get rid of all humans because he feels like Splinter as well, that they're just evil, but obviously two different mindsets. Splinter's not trying to rid the world of humans like Superfly is. Superfly wants to get rid of them. But then he's stopped by the turtles, who again learn that this is the right thing to do. We should do it. So there's a lot of growth in the film. So I like how they put that through the story. Just a simple story of turtles, a little different. It's just not about ninja fighting stuff. And then if you've noticed and if you've watched it, Shredder, the main turtle villain, I like that he's not in this main film. I think that's a great idea, not to start off with the big bad of it all. Going forward, he's obviously going to show up. If you saw the film, I hope you stayed for the middle credit scene. If you didn't, check it out. It might be floating around somewhere, but we see that Shredder is going to get involved. And obviously, you don't see his whole body, but you see like his shoulder down, kind of his head on the left side down. And the design, like I said, how they created the style, he looks like they're going to continue that with a great style of Shredder. So I like that he's not just in the first film and wasted. We got Superfly, who I think was a really good character to do for the first film, is like their jump off, because again they're teenagers. They're not really at the highest level of ninja fighting yet. There's so much more to be learned. I like that we kept the story simple in that, and that there's room for growth even beyond this on how they can use those powers more. And what other troubles they may have now that they are in high school. And like again, it just reminds me of Peter Parker and how he's in high school having to deal with the normal things of a kid, but then also being a hero. So some cool parallels there. So yeah, for number 2, the story, they did a fantastic job with it. I'm all on board with it. I'm excited to see what's next in the story. Number 3, the voice actors or cast, as you would say. So to start off with the film, we get Maya Rudolph. She is like the bad guy behind the scenes who's starting like this. She's got like this agency who's trying to stop Stockman or to get back their research. So she's not throughout the whole film, but little parts of this you can tell it's Maya Rudolph. She's in the most important part of the film when the turtles finally realize they can be milked, and they're getting milked. So if you saw that, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. But at the start of the film, when we get to Dr. Stockman, who is like a madman trying to do these mutants, he's voiced by Giancarlo Esposito, which you should all know is a very good menacing voice to have. So he does a very good job of being Stockman for just a little bit of time that we have him. The turtles, the 4 of them, I'm not sure who they were. I looked up the cast afterwards. They're like kids for the most part. Their voices work completely for the turtles. I just didn't know them from any other things that they have done. But it worked for me. They did a good job of being the young turtles. So they worked out even though I'm not very aware of their work. The one I'm most aware of probably is Ayo Edibiri. So I apologize if I mess that up. But you know me, I butcher names on here. She is the voice of April O'Neil. She's from The Bear, season 1, season 2. Fantastic show. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. But she plays April and does a very good job of being like that unsure kid who, you know, is trying to get back in the high school ranks of not being known as Puke Girl. But then she bounces off the turtles real well with some of the stuff that she says, and it just works for that character. It was a great choice to have her as April. Some of the bad guys, the small scale ones they're bad guys, but then become good by the end. Seth Rogen obviously throws himself in there as Bebop. You can tell it's him. Obviously, Seth Rogen's very recognizable, especially like his little chuckle and everything. So it was good. His counterpart, Rocksteady, is John Cena, who's like in a lot of things now. All of a sudden, he was just in Barbie, I saw this week. So John Cena's there. Mondo the Gecko is Paul Rudd, which is very recognizable and a good choice. He plays that little weird character very well. Who am I leaving off here? Oh, Post Malone does his characters like the Stingray. He does little singing parts. It's very funny. It's not a whole lot, but when he does, it's funny. It's Post Malone. We got Jackie Chan plays Splinter. Good choice. Again, I'm a big fan of Jackie Chan, although he's not been like in a lot of stuff recently that I'm aware of. But just when I was younger, his TV show that he had, the cartoon, and then Rush Hour and all those other films. Big fan of Jackie Chan. So cool to have him back as Splinter is a nice choice. I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Oh, well, and then the main guy, Superfly. I did not know this going in that he was casted by Ice Cube as Superfly. And if I would have known that going in, I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't know how that's going to work. But it works. The movie does a lot of 90s hip-hop. And then when I think of Ice Cube, I obviously think of 90s hip-hop. And he uses a lot of references to other songs and artists in the film as part of his dialogue. So it's a nice touch. So it overall works. Superfly as Ice Cube, he does a good job. Like I said, I didn't expect that to be the case, but it's really good that he does it, especially how they mix up the music the way they did it. That's also another bonus I'm not talking about too much about, but the soundtrack is amazing with the film. And I think Ice Cube and his dialogue just strengthens it. I can't think if I'm leaving anyone else off. I hope I'm not. I think I covered it. Maya Rudolph, Giancarlo Esposito, John Cena, Seth Rogen, Jackie Chan, Ice Cube. That's the main Ayo Edibiri. So I think overall that covered everybody. Post Malone. So yeah, the voice actors really worked. I'm curious to see what they do going forward. I like to see who is going to voice Shredder, what type of character that's going to be. But with what they did with this one, I have full faith that they'll continue and pick the right moves. So we'll see what goes forward. And like I said, number 3, the voice acting. And number 4, I would say this is not directly a piece of the film, but what the film represents. So I think this is the first time that we're going to have a full-fledged, successful TMNT franchise. This kicks it off pretty good. Obviously, with leaving at the end that Shredder is possibly coming for round 2. And was not used in the first film, and that this was a jump off point for our turtles growing up. So I'm excited to see what happens. I do know that I'm sure, I don't think nothing has changed, but they did go ahead and say that there is a sequel coming. It just hasn't been written yet. And I think there's like a spin-off TV show that's going to be like to fill the gaps from season 1 to season 2. I think it's going to be a little more small scale, though. It's not going to be the full like artwork that we've seen here, and it's probably just going to be a couple episodes, I think. But it is starting a franchise. They are going to build more off of it. This movie, I think, was fantastic, so obviously more people are going to want that. It wasn't a failure. So I'm excited for the franchise to be built. I love the Turtles. It's been a long time since I've had something that I've liked to watch as the Turtles. Like Michael Bay films didn't. I mean, I watched them, but nothing I'm excited about. In preparation for this, my son and I, we watched the original 3 from when I was a kid. We only watched the 2. I got the third one in. He didn't get the third one in. But we watched the first 2, which I think is the best things that they've ever did Turtles, but this right here is up there with that. So I'm excited for it. I want to see what the franchise does. Obviously, bringing Shredder in. Great idea to wait to do that, see what happens going forward. But yeah, so we got a franchise now with TMNT. Once I think all these, I don't know how it affects animation or not, but all the strikes and stuff going on, we'll see what happens. But yep, TMNT franchise is on the way. So that's my number 4. And then I'll get right into number 5 in just a second. All right, and number 5, which is a bonus. I don't get to really do this for reviews, as you can see behind me with all these toys back there. I am a fan of toys, but for this movie, since we took my son to see it and he was all into the Turtles leading up into it, I decided to get him the entire Turtle set for the most part. You get these at Target or Walmart, maybe other locations, but I got most of them at Target, and then the final 2 I couldn't find. I found it Walmart, so I don't know if they're exclusives or not. It didn't say it on the box. But I'll give you a quick little review, my thoughts on the toys. This is my favorite turtle of all time, Donatello. He's got glasses like me, so I'm liking it. He's got his stick. Leonardo is my son's favorite. He's got the katana swords. Leo. They do a really good job. They like the characters in the film. And then they have their differences. Here's Michelangelo with the nunchucks. Woo! Smiling. He actually has braces in the film. I don't see braces here. Raphael. Cool. And I like that all the weapons they have something to put their weapons on around their belt or on their back. So that's clever. April O'Neil. So the Turtles and April O'Neil and it might have been Bebop came in a set together that we got. So I knocked out 6 characters in just one set. Here's Bebop. Seth Rogen's character. Comes with a little gun. Alright, and then we haven't opened these yet, but we'll get to it. Oh, actually, hold on, I forgot one more. Splinter. Again, like I said earlier. He's not our slim guy that we're used to, but he's got glasses, older. I like the representation for our people with glasses. We got 3 characters right there wearing them. And then we haven't opened these yet. Superfly, like I said, the bad guy. We'll get this one later. We had too much to do. We opened up those right there. This is Leatherhead. Crocodile, the Gator. I can't remember who voiced Leatherhead. Rocksteady, this is the John Cena character. They look really cool. They fit the characters really well from the movie. That's pretty much all of them. They did have the babies. The Turtles as babies. I didn't get those. But we did get, I thought this was highly necessary, we did get the van. Check it out. A little close. Turtle power. So this van obviously saves all the characters. I mean, you can hold them all, stores them. It's like in a little toy box, basically, which is what I like it. But if you press this pizza on the top, the door opens, and then if you hit it again, well, bam, it comes at you, and you can put a turtle in there, and this shoots little pizzas out. You can see the pizzas right here. So, overall, pretty cool. If you're into toys, obviously, if you're into turtles, I highly recommend. You don't have to buy everything, but we did, because that's what we do. Most toys I'm not a fan of for a lot of these live action things or toys, movies. They're not that cool, but I mean, as a kid, we all had turtle figures, and turtles are always cool. So again, I recommend, if you like it, get you a couple turtles. They're fun to play with. Again, Donatello is the best, undisputed. So number 5, to go along with this growing franchise, I would say the toys are up there. Anytime you get a movie and you got cool toys out of it, I think that's a win for everybody, especially for my love for movies and toys. So number 5, definitely the toys. And before we can conclude our review, let's go ahead and give it our rating. Very good film. I liked it for the most part. Everything was pretty good. Like we said, the style, the story. Not many complaints for me whatsoever on this film. I don't think it's obviously on the level of Spider-Verse, at least as impactful as that movie. But even still, I think it's a fantastic film. So I'm going to go ahead and give it 9 double R's. So our 9 double R review. Hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't see the movie, go see that out, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Come back for more reviews. Before we get out of here, like always, please press that like button, hit subscribe, share this with any of your family and friends, and come back later for more reviews. Rebel out.